Governor's Emergency Order Number 12 and pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. This is a public hearing on bills referred to the committee and scheduled to the House calendar for today. An executive session may be held on any bills referred to the committee today. We are not checking anything today. This public hearing, okay. Please note that there is no physical location for members of the public to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that all the members of the committee and selected legislative staff have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through the Zoom electronic meeting platform. And the public has access to this contemporaneously, listen, and if necessary, participate in the meeting by the Zoom platform or by telephone. All necessary access information has been made available in the House calendar and through the electronic calendar on the General Court website. The notice for this meeting complies with House rules and RSA 91A. Anyone who has a problem accessing this meeting shall call 271-3600 or email hcs@ledge.state.nh.us. In the event the public is unable to access this meeting, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance when each member states their presence, and please also state whether there's anybody in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. All right, you're on.
All right, good morning, everyone. Call the roll. Representative Hunt.
I am here and I am alone.
Okay, Representative Patusek.
I am here upstairs, but my wife is downstairs.
Okay, Representative Osborne. Representative Ammon here and alone. Representative Abramson. Representative Ham.
Here alone.
Representative DePalma.
Here and alone.
Representative Greason.
Present and alone.
Representative Johnson.
Here and alone in LOB.
Representative Terry.
I'm here all by myself.
Representative Bartlett.
I'm here alone in this room.
Representative Abel.
Present and alone.
Representative Herbert. Representative Herbert. Representative Van Houten.
Present and alone.
It looks like Representative Herbert's here, but is muted.
Okay.
Yeah, he is. Well, he's, yeah, there he is.
Okay, yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
All right. And Representative Fargo.
I'm here and I'm alone.
Representative Weston.
Here and alone.
Representative Bellew.
Here, home alone.
Representative Burrows.
Here alone, but my husband may come back during the hearing at some point.
Okay. And last, Representative McAleer.
I'm here and alone.
All right, Mr. Chair, that's 17 present.
Excellent. All right, we'll open up the public hearing on Senate Bill 138 and hear from Senator Waters, the prime sponsor. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. It's good to see you all. I'm Senator David Waters from District 4 to introduce Senate Bill 138. Just a little bit of background. This bill was originally on another subject, and an issue came before me from a constituent who you may hear from about an issue dealing with investment metals contracts. So we had a hearing on an amendment in Senate Commerce, and that amendment ended up replacing all of the underlying bills. So that's how it comes to you today. It came out of the Senate Commerce 5-0 and off the Senate 24 to 0. So what this bill does is it addresses an issue that has arisen for people in New Hampshire who wish to take part in the trade of investment metals and investment gems. And what made this difficult for New Hampshire folks is that existing statute, RSA 421B1-102, 32B3, says that the physical delivery of metals must be made within 20 days to a person or the designated bank or licensed broker dealer only within New Hampshire. And this created a lot of problems for the folks who want to trade in this, who might be doing two-party trades back and forth with the person from whom they bought the metals. And so they would have to pay for shipment insurance and postal costs, and also delay in their ability to make their trades. So 15 other states have done this. And in terms of developing the language here, I wanted to make sure that we maintain New Hampshire's strong consumer protection laws while also respecting the right of New Hampshire residents to participate in markets they want to participate in. We had a great deal of assistance from Barry Glennon of the New Hampshire Bureau of Securities Regulations, who made some suggestions that we needed to have some more definitions of depository here, and to make sure we had an appropriate number of days for the delivery. With that, he supported the bill, and we put in the bill the language that he thought that we needed. So to conclude, Mr. Chairman, I think that what the bill does is it balances consumer protection, provides New Hampshire's with opportunity to better participate in these markets. And I'd be happy to take any questions you have.
Yeah, so no, I don't see Barry coming on. So the only thing that piqued my interest was this is in the Uniform Securities Act, and generally, and I know this maybe not, you can't really answer this question, so, but generally the securities uniform acts are, there's a entity in Chicago that comes out with these uniform UCC statutes, and they're all uniform. So I hear you saying that this language is in other states, but it's not actually promoted by that entity in Chicago, the Uniform Commercial, it's we're inserting it into our Uniform Securities Act. Are you familiar with this at all?
Yeah, somewhat. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The original regulations were adopted back in 1985, and boy, a whole lot has changed in all kinds of trading and markets since that time. And of course, the Uniform Securities Act allows states to make its own regulations, which all states do to ensure consumer protection, ought to recognize the particularities there. But in this case, so much has changed in the trading of precious metals, investment metals, that states have said, look, we've got to make it possible for our residents to, I believe strongly in free markets, and our residents should be able to participate in this. And this is a relatively minor fix to our state statute that then enables people to do that. I'm not aware of any objection based on the National Act, and the other states that have gone down this road have done this for several years. So I think it's a good way for us to go for New Hampshire folks.
Okay, we do have questions now. Representative McAleer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my understanding is that this would allow me to hold metal contracts, actual gold and silver and whatever, with that in my IRA with somebody that possesses it physically out of state. So they don't have to be in New Hampshire, correct?
Right. So they have to be shipped. Now, of course, you have to have all the appropriate documentation and protections that they've been delivered to a depository of your choice, and so on and so forth. But they don't have to be in New Hampshire, and that was the bottleneck, that you had to get them here, and that meant you had to have a relationship with the bank, and this and that and the other thing. And then if you're making trades quickly, that sure makes it difficult for you.
So I've already done this. I hope I'm not subject to arrest.
Well, me too, Representative. Thank you for your question.
Would you believe? Representative Johnson has a question.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my question. My question is, you had mentioned something about in the bill, it says 7-day period, but then you had said something about a 20-day period. Can you elaborate? Because you kind of lost me on that.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for the question. I'm sorry, I just jumbled over that. Originally, we had the 21 days, and Barry Glennon said he thought it'd be much more appropriate to have 7 days, and that made sense. So that's why we changed it to 7 here.
So you shortened up the number of days and you
Yeah.
wanted to make, which to me doesn't make a lot of sense, because if you're wanting to give everybody enough time, you 20 days seems more reasonable if you're trying to maneuver things around, but now you're just taking it from 20 to 7.
Yeah, and 7 is really the consumer protection there, that if you've bought it, you ought to have possession of them and then be able to make another trade or do what you want with them. So that's why Barry Glennon was much more comfortable with us and requested we move to 7 days.
Okay. Representative Van Houten.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator, for being here. I'm going to confess to complete ignorance on this. I did some research, checked it out a little bit more, and I have a couple of quick questions, and I hope that maybe someone will be following you who will give us a primer on this. Are you talking about physical location of the metals and then a certificate to guarantee that they are there?
Yes.
Well,
Thanks for the question. And I mean, that's the point, that, you have to have, in one way or another, possession of the metals. And what we're saying is that the possession here can take place that could be sent to you personally, or you can designate a depository in which they are held. And I hope that Mr. Cota is available, because he trades in this and brought the issue to my attention. And I think he can probably give you a pretty good sense of just, what the nuts and bolts are of somebody who participates in these trades.
Okay, he wasn't on my sheet, but I'm pulling him up.
May I follow up,
We
please?
do have further questions. Yes, Representative Van Houten.
Thank you. And I thank you for that explanation, because that makes a lot of sense to me. Are there certain depositories that have to be somehow certified, somehow safety certified? Because if I'm owning diamonds, which obviously I will be doing shortly, I want them safe. How does that work?
Well, let's let Mr. Cota address that, but you'll see in the definitions part
Yes.
there that it does say the depository, the warehouse receipts of which are recognized for delivery purposes for any commodity on a contract market designated by the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. So, and then storage facility licensed or regulated by the United States or an agency of the United States, or depository designated by, et cetera. So it's those sections of the bill that make sure that you're dealing with a place that's recognized as licensed on the up and up.
Thank you. I just, since I'm learning about this piecemeal, I'd like to be sure that I'm guaranteeing safety of investments for our constituents. And thanks very much.
Indeed. Thank you.
Okay, Representative Belo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for taking my question, Senator Waters. I'm totally ignorant when it comes to Bitcoin. Does this have anything to do with Bitcoin?
No, Senator, thanks for your question. Senator Sanborn introduced the legislation a number of years ago, which authorized the people to use Bitcoin if you're in New Hampshire, and that's a different statute.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Representative Johnson has another question.
Thank you for taking my question again. What are the other 15 states that you said that also have this type of legislation?
I don't have the list in my head, but I'm pretty sure that Maine is one of them, because I looked at Maine statute. But maybe Mr. Cotto will there, and again, I think Barry Glennon thought he did his work in the Senate and getting the language he wanted, and he signed off on it all. So I guess he's not here today for that part.
At this moment, I have not seen him yet, but
yeah,
we'll see what happens. But we do have Mr. Cota, so he can help us.
Yeah,
out.
he may be able to.
Okay.
Help with that.
Well, everybody ready? Thank you very much, Senator, and we'll let you get back to busy work taking care of House bills. Okay.
And I'll thank you, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So, Mr. Cota.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, great. Welcome.
Yes.
And help us. You've heard a bunch of questions, so I assume you got lots of good material here for us.
Yes. Well, I have bought and sold precious metals with a dealer, and they mail me the metals. And when I want to sell them, I have to call them, and they send me a box with a label that I have to pack them and then send them back. And when they receive them, then I can sell them, but I'm selling them then at that price, at that time, not at the price I would want to sell as if they were, say, stocks. And I also have to pay, the cost of the shipping and the insurance, which is quite a bit. And my broker at the company told me that about this program where they could store them in a depository for me, and I wouldn't have to pay for shipping, and I would get a lower commission, and I'd be able to sell just by calling and selling, and be able to sell immediately. And I filled out the application, and then he told me, there are 5 states in the United States where we are not allowed to use this option. And New Hampshire is one of those 5 states because it's against New Hampshire law. So I could be across the border in Maine or Massachusetts or Vermont or most of the country and do this, but I couldn't do it in New Hampshire because of the law. And so this fixes that problem for me.
Great. You kind of moved over quickly. So what is the metal that you're doing? And did you say DR, like in Dominican Republic, or because I didn't follow you what you were saying?
Dominican Republic? No, I didn't.
No, you said DR or something, but okay. So what is the metal? And we're
platinum.
Platinum.
They deal in gold, silver, platinum, and palladium.
And where is that entity? Where are you getting this from?
California.
California. Okay. Great. Let's see. Representative Bartlett has a question.
Thanks very much. I'm sorry, Mr. Cota, I did not catch your firm's name.
Oh, I don't have a firm. I'm just as an individual.
So you're an individual who deals in.
Oh, you mean the company that I buy the metal from?
You're not representing anybody, is that correct?
I'm not representing anybody, no.
So, okay, so you just purchase these gems or precious metals from a broker, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee members? Seeing none, we thank you for bringing this bill, letting the senator know about this, and because we don't like to be behind on anything when it comes to New Hampshire. But we do have another question, Representative McAleer.
Thank you, Mr. Cota. Are you dealing with non-qualified accounts or qualified accounts?
I don't know what that means.
In other words, I have precious metals, but it's in a qualified account, an IRA account, and I never knew there was a problem with that. But you're talking about.
It's not an IRA.
An IRA, yeah.
It's not an IRA.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Right.
Right. You're just buying platinum and then marking it up and selling it to somebody else who might be making.
No. The company, I'm not marketing it to somebody else. The company that I deal with maintains a two-way market. And so I buy from them, and if the price goes up and I want to take a profit, I can sell it back to them.
Okay. So you're basically.
They make a profit on it. They make a margin, but if the price goes up by a significant amount, I still make money.
So theoretically, they're using your money to go out and buy more metals, and you're basically somewhat of an underwriter for them.
They're like a stockbroker, except instead of stocks, they're selling actual physical metal.
Amazing. Okay. We do have more questions. Representative Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dare I ask Senator Waters or Mr. Cotta, are you aware, I think one of you mentioned that there are 5 states where these restrictions are in play. Do either of you have any idea what the rationale is, or is this just kind of legacy left over from the way things were done in the past and the other states have already effectively reformed?
If I may answer that, And I appreciate Mr. Cota's correction too. I think I had a typo that I had 15 states instead of 45. So I'm glad we got that straightened out.
Different.
But my sense is that we just haven't caught up here, and it's like a lot of things. I mean, 1985 is a long time ago when it comes to markets, and a lot has changed. So it, you know, I mean, it's similar to what we've done in some other areas when sometimes it's a constituent or a business that comes forward and says, look, we have to revise our bills. I mean, I think back a few years ago when we did the massive rewriting of the banking legislation, same thing. It was an opportunity to catch up on a lot of things. So I think this is just to catching up with the markets so that individuals, you know, I mean, again, I strongly believe in free markets, and an individual in New Hampshire wants to participate in the trading of investment metals and investment gems, that they ought to be able to do it in a way that lets them operate. So, and I don't know, George, if any other thoughts on that, but.
No, just it's a great, would be a great convenience to be able to have them store it. And it would give me, they would give me a lower commission, and I wouldn't have to pay postage. I would have to pay a small monthly storage fee, but their storage fee is small compared to the other expenses and the values of the metals.
But you still have to take it back and then ship it back to them and to put it in their storage under current law.
No, I would just, I call them up, I say, I want to buy a certain amount of metal, and I have money in the account. They use that money in the account to buy it, and then they buy it and they put it in storage.
Okay. Currently, or with this legislation?
With this legislation.
Okay. Okay. But currently, if you were to do that, you would have to have it shipped to New Hampshire.
Yes, I have it.
Yeah.
In my
Which
house.
has got to be shipping costs, insurance costs, and
yes,
loan vulnerability to handling.
Right.
But, you know, so okay. Are you all set?
Chair, for my follow-up.
For the question, yes, you may inquire.
Just to follow up, I never thought that in moving from Rhode Island to New Hampshire that I would be moving behind the times. But this is one of those first and rare instances where I was able to do something in Rhode Island that apparently I would not be able to do yet in New Hampshire. And I hope we can get this corrected. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Representative Ammon has not asked a question yet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this question is for Mr. Cota. As an individual, we talk about consumer protection. Is it safer for you to store the platinum in your house or in a depository?
I think it would be safer to store it in a depository.
And because further question, because you're at risk, you're providing your own security to prevent theft, and in a depository, I'm sure they have much better security for you. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
So. Okay, Representative Van Houten, you have a new question?
Yes, thank you. And thank you for testifying to us today. I have a very, very basic question. I note that we're talking about investment metal. Is it always investment metal, or at any point does the metal become jewelry, for instance? Is it always staying in the investment world?
Well, this says investment gems too.
Right.
Well, I don't know about the wording of this bill, but the only things that I participate in with this broker are precious metals.
If I may just mention, Barry Glennon said that he thought the appropriate language was investment metals and investment gems. So that's why we have those terms in the bill. He said in terms of statute, those are the words to use.
So what do we imagine that investment means? It might be a little more raw form, that it hasn't been turned into rings, or the diamond hasn't been shaped yet? Or what do you call it when you chip away at a diamond and make it a nice diamond? So.
And I'm wondering too if it has to stay in that form throughout to qualify for this contract. In other words, if I sell my metals or my diamonds to a jeweler, do I now come out of this contract at this business? I must say that there's so much here that I don't really understand. And so my questions are very basic. And if you can help me with it, I'd appreciate that.
It seems to me that, again, it's investment. So if you were a jeweler and you're going to take that and start doing stuff with it, then you're changing its form. So it's not, at that point, it's not an investment per se, I would think. But we can certainly get him to respond to us for that question. Are there any other questions for the committee? Seeing none, we thank you very much. And we'll close the public hearing. We had 5 people in support. Looks like all senators, and one, I guess, Perkins, Senator. Oh, so this is again another senator. Okay, so all senators were in support. 5 senators in support, no opposition, and nobody neutral. And with that, we'll close the public hearing on Senate Bill 138. And Senator Waters, we don't exec bills on the same day here in Commerce. Stay tuned. We have a whole month to exec things, so we're all set there. All right, so the time being 10:27, so we have 3 minutes before we take up 124. And so I see, yes, okay, you were also on this one, Senator Waters, I see. Okay, all right. So I'll ask the attendees if you would like to speak on this bill, just raise your hand so I'll know who's interested in speaking on this bill. Okay, Attorney Fox. And Joe Doherty.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Since we have about a minute and a half, I just thought I would take the opportunity to address the question of Representative Van Houten, particularly with respect to the precious metals. That we're talking about gold, silver, platinum, et cetera. We're talking about bullion bars, or we're talking about coins, or we're talking about slugs. In other words, they look like coins, but they're just silver or gold or platinum, but there's no imprint upon them. Some of the coins can be historic coins. So it's a whole range of product that's available for investment.
Yeah, but I see, to me, it's surprised that you say coins, because the coins are a finished product. So the value is not just in the metal itself, but it's in all that, the age and the stamp and whatever, because it's a finished product. Whereas when I think investment metals, like you say, it's like gold bar, that ingot. And but like I said, we learn something new every day in Commerce. And just for the record, I was elected in '86 and it was not around when this legislation passed in '85. I was in New Hampshire, but I was not an elected official at the time. Okay, it's 10:30. We'll open up the public hearing, and the only senator I got is you, Senator Waters. You're still there?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have part 3 of this, so I didn't know if you're going to proceed. Yeah. It's the senator who was head of the underlying bill.
Kavanaugh must be, I know Senate Commerce might be busy, so he is probably still over there. But so you want to talk to Section 3 of the bill, so that's fine.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd be happy. I'm Senator David Waters, District 4, and let me just say that I am introducing Senate Bill 124. And you'll see I'm almost sheepish to say it's another one of the Senate omnibus bills.
Why do they do this?
Smorgasbord or tasting menu. I mean, at least this one is all about insurance, unlike some of them, which are, 3 or 4 different House committees. But you'll see the various underlying parts to it. And if you would like, Mr. Chairman, since the others aren't here, I can speak to part 3, which is my part.
Yep. That's what I would like you to focus on.
Yeah.
That.
Well, thank you very much. So part 3 is relative to self-storage insurance. It's on page 13 of the bill is where it begins. And this may look very familiar to you all because you did great work on it last year, and then it got all caught up in COVID. So here we are. And I will say it is basically the same bill, except for just a couple of little wiggles that the Insurance Commission wanted. So let me just go through it briefly for you. And we do have, I believe, some representatives from the industry. And let me also say that this bill is actually the second of bills on self-storage we've dealt with over the last several years. And here again, really trying to bring our New Hampshire statute up to date as to how the industry is functioning. And I'm sure you all know how important an industry this is in New Hampshire. So what this bill does is it allows self-storage facilities to sell property insurance for its renters. Really, the kind of key to it is in the definition section, Roman 8, you'll find on page 14, where it defines self-storage insurance, personal property insurance offered in connection with and incidental to the rental of rented space at a self-storage facility, and provides coverage for loss or damage of what's there or what's in transportation to and from it. And this is important to note. This is a very limited license for this. It's just for this product. It won't allow you to sell any other kind of insurance. It's just for renters who want to take the convenience here. And what's important too on page 15, again, trying to balance the commerce that people want to undertake and the convenience that renters may want to undertake with appropriate consumer protections. And so here it says that very, very clearly the claims process, the costs of the insurance and the language there that must be posted all be transparent and available to the purchaser here. Also important to note that this is a policy that's limited to $10,000. And then again, with appropriate consumer protection, that the policies are regulated by existing Insurance Commission statutes, RSA 412-5-2. Then the bill also goes into the owner's responsibility, that the owners must provide the appropriate training. They must have a plan for that training that gets approved by the commission. They must establish an appropriate and transparent billing procedure. And then there is language about license application. And then also, I think importantly too, just to notice the effective date is the 1st of January 22, so that it gives time for the Insurance Commission and for the industry to gear up, get trained, get their plans together, get the appropriate materials together, decide whether they want to offer this product or not. Those of us who have been around in New Hampshire for a while might remember the devastating fire at the storage facility in Portsmouth. It's just really important that people have the opportunity to have insurance if they want to get it. And this also provides a very light touch of regulation, that we make sure that the product is being presented and sold appropriately by people who are trained to do it. But they're not full-time insurance agents licensed to do other things. And so this means that it will be simple and possible to offer this product for folks who are using rentage and self-storage facilities. So, Mr. Chairman, there you have it.
Great, and we do have some questions. Let's see who's first here. First was Representative Burrows.
Yes, thank you for taking my question. Again, this is new to me, so it's more to understand why does the property that does the storage, why are they not the ones who carry the insurance rather than the individual owner, people who rent out the storage space?
Well, thank you for your question. And we'll have some industry folks here, but I always think I'm responsible for my property in a way. If I'm in my house, I buy insurance for my property. I'm sure that they have insurance on their own building, but if it's my stuff or my car that's being stored there, and I want to make sure that, if there's fire or theft or whatever, that I have protection for my property. So that's the way I would see it.
Thank you.
Okay, Representative Bartlett.
Would you believe that you have to have an insurable interest to be able to purchase insurance? So the self-storage manager or owner doesn't have an insurable interest in your personal property. So that's always a basic. I have to tell you that having an insurance background, this at first blush makes it difficult for me to want to support this. Could you give me, Senator Waters, could you give me a little background about how this bill was presented and whether the insurance department was involved in, I know you're talking about just part 3, and whether the insurance department was involved in presenting it?
Well, thanks for your question, Representative Bartlett. And as I said, this is the second year on this, and your committee, House Commerce, worked on this, very effectively last year, and then COVID disrupted it. And all along, there's been close work with the insurance department on language, on posting. Some of the language here is what they wanted, the noticing. They asked for considerable changes both last year, particularly last year, to get the language where it ought to be and the procedures where they ought to be on offering this product. And I think that what's significant here is that, a lot of folks who get a storage unit, they're in between jobs, they're moving, or they have one reason they've got to have their a storage facility, and or they got to get a car stored somewhere or a boat. And, it's a question of their convenience and also consumer choice. That you'd have an opportunity to, at one place, if you didn't already have homeowners or apartment insurance, that you could get your possessions insured for relatively low cost at the facility.
May I have a follow-up?
Yes, further question being inquired.
Thank you. Yes, I'm aware that the market to cover personal property in a storage unit is limited. And right, if you are between places, you aren't going to get an extension past 30 days during a moving process. And of course, automobiles are not going to be covered under your homeowners. But you give this authority to a self-storage ownership or manager to sell insurance. The bill provides for training, but it talks about training. But what is the insurance department?
So let me interject here, because I believe I was a co-sponsor of this bill. So this is similar. We've had several ones. This is similar is when you buy a cell phone and they want to sell you an extended warranty for the cell phone. And we had to do the same thing with the legislation. We had to carve out that they weren't going to be the same deep structure that we require of insurance agents, because this is just a service being added on by the storage facility, so that you get in the storage facility, you've just been notified that, by the way, you're obligated to insure this. And the person goes, where am I going to find an agent? And they said, well, we actually have that product here and we can sell it for you if you would like that. That's what this bill is.
I mean, I understand $10,000 is a very small amount. And by the time you're getting into valuation of property that it's not in your possession, that could be an issue, but that's really up to the insurance adjuster to deal with. I don't have a big problem with this, but I sure would like to get into the weeds a little further.
Right now, we're just asking questions.
Yep, I understand.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Next up is Representative Abel.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Senator Waters, for discussing this with us. I know we worked on this, that House Commerce worked on this previously. I'm unsure, however, whether you mentioned that the market, the current insurance market, it's difficult to find an insurance company that will cover this in our present status. Is that correct, or did I misunderstand that?
Thanks for your question. And I didn't mean to imply that. To me, it's a question of convenience and whether or not any coverage you have would actually apply, you might otherwise have would actually apply here. And that's why we have the consumer protection in the bill saying that the renter be informed. You may already have for insurance on this. So it's like when you rent a car. You may already have insurance that covers this, but you want to buy ours. But as I said, we do have. I believe we have a representative from the national industry and then a representative from New Hampshire facility who will be available to you today. And I think they'll probably be able to give you some pretty good answers.
Thank you. May I ask just a quick follow-up?
Okay, so what you heard there was that the senator was urging you to maybe ask Mr.
All right, I'll ask that later. Thank you.
If possible. So I guess the three people who have your hands up, are you guys willing? Do you have a question you think for the senator, or would you like to be able to ask? Actually, Joe, you probably know. Yeah, you actually have seen these storage facilities, so I can only imagine what your question is going to be. But, so Bonnie, are you okay? Let's call up Joe Doherty to ask a question.
Sure, either way.
I opened Zoom's
Okay, great.
Because I was trying to figure out.
Chris, mute Chris. I can mute you. All right. So, Mr. Doherty, please help us out here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'll just be brief in my introduction of myself, and then I'm happy to answer any questions from the committee. So I am the in-house attorney for the National Self-Storage Association. We support this bill. It's similar to legislation that has been passed in 40 states now, including Vermont, Massachusetts, and several other nearby northeastern states. There are approximately 50,000 self-storage tenants in the state of New Hampshire. This provides them with a low-cost option to get insurance coverage. This is something that there are markets for this, but it's difficult to get it through an existing insurance agent. It's just, the policies are very low dollar value, and there's not, frankly, a lot of incentive for an insurance agent to sell a standalone one of these policies. Maybe it'll be a tag along to a homeowner's if you have one or something like that, but as a standalone policy, it's not something we typically see. And with folks, as Senator Waters indicated, with folks who are in transition, if they don't have existing coverage, there is nothing to tack on to. It is, however, solely an option. It's not something that can be forced upon the tenant. That is in the disclosures that are provided to the consumer. So if you have another form of coverage already, great, that's fine. And that'll be that, and you'll be covered through that. Finally, I'll just point out that these are underwritten by known insurance companies, maybe not household names per se, but names that are known within the industry, AIG, Great American, Hanover. And then the training that's provided and the oversight that's provided for these programs is provided by licensed insurance agents. So licensed insurance agents are involved in the process with that training, with the oversight of the program, but they're not actually the person standing behind the desk. And for efficiency's sake, rather than licensing everybody who might be standing behind a desk at a self-storage facility, you have this process that's been accepted in 40 other states now, where the employees of the facility work under that license and again are trained and overseen by licensed insurance agents. I'm also happy to speak to the speak to our discussions with the insurance department, but I didn't want to preempt any representative from the insurance department who may be here to speak about that. But I'm happy to speak about that as well, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And you're willing to take questions?
Yes, I am.
All right. So Representative DePalma.
Thank you for taking my question. I was curious, would this apply to portable storage companies that deliver self-storage to a customer site, or would it only apply specifically at a storage facility?
Representative DePalma, it would only apply at a physical storage facility, would not apply to portable storage units.
And can I have a follow-up, Mr. Chairman?
Further question may inquire.
If that storage company did have a self-storage facility on site and also did portable storage, could they still offer the insurance, or would that wouldn't be allowed?
They could offer the insurance to, for folks who had a unit at the site. But if it's something, my neighbors here in my community, that they'll have a portable storage unit sitting in their driveway, you couldn't use it to insure that. You'd have to, but you could probably get that on your homeowners as well. But if the property were stored at the site of the storage facility, it could be insured under this type of policy.
Thank you.
So if you get a My Box and have it delivered to your home, you got to get your homeowners to cover it. But if you get the My Box right there at the site of their rental business, then it would be okay. Good question. All right, and now Representative Ham.
Yes, thank you very much for taking my question. I think my question was kind of answered. I was concerned these contracts, these insurance policies are sold through an insurance company, a licensed insurance company, underwritten by that company. So you have an independent agent there in between the storage unit owner and the tenant. So that kind of clarified my concern. Thank you.
Okay. And Representative Johnson.
Thank you for taking my question. Actually, I've got two. The first one, is there I could be reading it wrong. Does the storage facility that is offering this insurance, are they going to be making a commission or a profit on selling this insurance?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Johnson, yes, there is potential for compensation to the storage facility. And that is, that's something that's part of the existing fee structure that's disclosed to the insurance department on the filings with the department.
Follow-up question?
Further question, may inquire?
Well, hold on, I wrote it down. So would the storage facility could they mandate that people who rent from them now have to buy this insurance in order to rent from them? Is this something that can come down the line where they can try to mandate this if you want to use a specific facility?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Johnson, no, they cannot. That is specifically addressed in the law, and it's a specific disclosure given to the consumer that this cannot be mandated.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. All right. Any other questions for Attorney Doherty? Seeing none, we thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So I do see, actually, Senator Kavanaugh. I'm going to promote Attorney Fox, and I'm going to promote Senator Kavanaugh. And I guess briefly, Jim, are you going to talk? I assume a couple of things on these bills, or you're going to talk to, or is this one of them that you were going to talk about?
Yeah, I'm sorry, my computer went out for a second.
Yeah, that happens when I switch you over.
I'm gonna talk to the self-storage one, the travel insurance one, and the domestic insurance investment one. And I think Tyler Brandon's going to handle the Medicare one.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So I'm going to hold you for a moment, guys, because we always like to help senators out first. So Senator Kavanaugh, since you are the prime sponsor of this bill, and welcome to the House Commerce Committee.
Chairman, hi, thank you very much. I apologize to the committee for being late. I had a Commerce meeting and then I had the wrong Zoom address. I was trying to get on, but I kept on going to Judiciary and I had to get this link, so I apologize. So I'm not sure where you are, but I can just present what I have.
Yeah.
And then if that's all right.
Yes, that'd be great.
So my name is Kevin Kavanaugh, Senator from District 16, representing the towns of Bow, Candia, Dunbarton, Hooksett, and Manchester wards 1, 2, and 12. And I'm here to speak to Section 1 of Senate Bill 124. I was approached by the industry to sponsor Senate Bill 415 last year, which passed, I'm sorry about that, Senate Commerce 5-0, with an amendment agreed to by the industry and the insurance department. It is based on the National Association of Insurance Commissioners model legislation built on the need for states to have a clear regulatory framework for travel insurance. It has passed in 11 states and being considered in many other states this year. This section of the bill will benefit consumers by requiring explicit consumer disclosures, prohibit opt-out sales, clarify permissible sales practices, and the applicability of the state's Unfair Trade Practices Act. Additionally, it will empower the Department of Insurance. Currently, regulations for travel insurance are based mostly on health insurance law and limited to distinguishing aspects of travel insurance from major medical or other categories of health insurance. The rules were a creative approach to providing guidance, and this bill attempts to build off that work and allow the department to create rules and procedures beyond the current limited scope. Finally, the bill will ensure a fair marketplace by addressing travel insurance elements not in current regulations. Specifically, the bill defines travel retailers, travel administrators, travel protection plans, and sales practices. You will hear additional testimony from the industry on the importance of these provisions. In conclusion, I ask that you support Section 1 of Senate Bill 124 FN, which would create an efficient, effective regulatory framework for travel insurance by adding clarity to existing laws and regulations for the travel insurance industry in a way that benefits consumers, empowers regulators, and ensures a fair marketplace. So thank you, committee members. And again, I apologize, Mr. Chairman, for being late. Thank you.
Right. I see Representative Ammon has his hand up, so I hope you can make sure that testimony you just gave, you can have it submitted to the committee.
Sure, I'll get it right. I'll get it over to you.
Okay, great. So is there any other questions for the senator? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm going to jump back to commerce then.
Take good care.
Thank you, Representative. Bye, everyone.
Yeah. Okay. Senator D'Alessandro, you're also on, I assume, care about this bill?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And Chairman Hunt and distinguished members of the committee. For the record, I'm Senator Lou D'Alessandro. I represent District 20. That's Manchester wards 3, 4, 10, 11 of the town of Goffstown. And I come before you as the sponsor of a proportion of this omnibus bill. Last session, the Senate passed Senate Bill 416. However, like other parts of this bill, it died on the table. Part 2 was refiled at the request of the Liberty Mutual Group, which owns 18 New Hampshire-based insurance companies. In total, they employ over 3,500 people throughout the state. And additionally, the investments held by those subsidiaries are worth over $25 billion. RSA 402:28 governs the types of investments that domestic insurance companies can make in New Hampshire. Part 2 of this bill would add replications to the list of permissible investment transactions they can make. Replications are a combination of a bond and a derivative that are intended to replicate the performance of an asset that an insurer is permitted to make under existing law. Currently, 30 states allow domestic insurers to invest in replications. Essentially, Part 2 would allow Liberty Mutual and other domestic insurers to use replication transactions along with other derivative transactions to better access financial markets. Now, it's a shame, but Attorney Russo, who usually testifies on this bill, is in the hospital and underwent emergency surgery. But I'm sure that people from Liberty Mutual are here and others who can give you a very, very complete answer to questions that you may come up with. I thank you for the opportunity to appear before you, Representative Hunt. Thank you so much, and nice to see all of you. You know, it's in these terrible times that we don't see anybody, and it's a pleasure to see all of you and to appreciate your service during this period of time. It's not easy, but nothing is easy in this life, and thank you so much for doing what you do. With that, Representative Hunt, I appreciate the opportunity to come before you, and any questions I could answer, I'd be happy to do that, but I'm sure there are others here who can give you a much better. By the way, the insurance companies the insurance department supports this. We've gone by, run it by the commissioner, and he or may not, he or someone else may be here to testify. But again, thank you, Representative Hunt. Always a pleasure to see the magnificence of the great Hunt. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you, Senator. Just make sure that that wonderful testimony you just gave, that you upload that so that
it'll be in your hands in the immediate future.
Right?
Moment, as we speak. Thank you so much.
All right, excellent. Representative, excuse me, Senator Sherman, I assume you're here for 125?
Yeah, for
the next bill.
No, I'm here for 124, the last section.
Oh, perfect. Great. All right. Well, then you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this is probably, I think, the briefest bill I've ever submitted, but this is essentially a bill that I worked with Tyler Brandon on, recognizing that when you have a Medicare supplemental insurance and you are disabled and under 65, you then, when you turn 65, you continue Medicare supplemental insurance. But there was a practice that was not ubiquitous, but it was clearly occurring, where the insurance companies would not tell you that you actually are eligible for a much less expensive supplemental insurance policy when you turn 65. So the original bill, which was filed last year and died a COVID death, is back. It's better than ever. It's shorter. And Senator Daniels, who, as you know, works in this arena, actually fixed a section of it that would have had unintended consequences. So this is incredibly simple. It just says that when you turn 65 and you're disabled, you no issuer shall continue to charge that member the under 65 premium, which is universally higher than the over 65 premium. So it gives you that automatic shift to the new premium when you turn 65 and stops the practice of continuing a higher charge for those who were not aware that they are continuing to be charged at the under 65 rate.
Perfect. Any questions for Senator Sherman? We do have Representative Abramson has a question.
See if I can get this working. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Thank you for taking my question. So this is on part 4 of the bill. I'm reading page 17, lines 23 and 24. It says, upon a Medicare eligible disabled member attaining the age of 65, no issuer shall continue to charge that member the under age 65 premium. But it doesn't say more or less. Would they be allowed to charge more under this bill?
Technically, yes. You know, it's not telling insurance companies what that charge over 65 would be, but the problem is that across all carriers, and I think Tyler can answer this even better than I can because he's the one who monitors this. The MedSup is less expensive when you turn 65 than when you are under 65 and disabled. So the process was that they would continue to charge the under 65 rate, which was higher, even though the person was eligible for a lower rate, but it did not, but they were not required to notify or to change to the lower rate.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because you're under 65, technically you're medically underwritten, whereas over 65, it's mandated that there's no underwriting occurring.
Correct.
So that makes sense. But that's a good question.
I didn't understand that.
Oh my God, my phone is talking back to me. Sorry about that. Let's see. I guess what I'll do, Tyler, you might as well have Tyler come up. Are you there, Tyler? Or did I?
I am. Yeah, hopefully you can see me now.
Yep, great. Why don't you go ahead and talk about this one while we're doing Medicare at this moment.
So Tyler Brannon, Life and Health Director with Insurance Department. We don't actually have a position on the bill, but most of what I would say is favorable, and it wasn't a department request. This is a little bit of a funny situation. We have received complaints from consumers who have been continued with that disabled premium, which I think was explained before, is higher. So we don't regulate Medicare Advantage or Medicare, but we do have a limited role with Medicare Supplemental. And there are essentially 2 open enrollment periods possible if you're disabled. So you can qualify for Medicare under 65 when you're disabled. And then of course you qualify for Medicare when you turn 65. There are rating rules that we approve the premiums, and New Hampshire has what's referred to as an issue age. So the problem seems to be that some people who qualified being disabled weren't notified that they had another open enrollment period when they turned 65, continue to be charged the higher disabled premium, and then complained to the department when they found out they should have had the opportunity to get a lower premium. So this very simple bill just addresses those people when they turn 65, provides that regulatory clarity. We actually surveyed the carriers to find out what they were doing. And one of the carriers, a major player in the market, said, we would never continue to charge that disabled rate when somebody turns 65. That's illegal. So clearly, one way or another, the regulatory clarity would be helpful. That being said, there does seem to be a lot of support for acknowledging the fact that when somebody who's disabled turns 65, they qualify for that regular 65 premium that would be in place. So I'm happy to take any questions, and thank you.
Seems pretty straightforward to me. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so Attorney Fox, you're going to wrap up the other three?
Yeah, wrap them up. Okay, my name is James Fox. I'm the P&C Director at the New Hampshire Insurance Department. Thank you for having me. I think since we have all three, maybe I'll go in reverse order. So I'll go back to the self-storage. The self-storage bill, we were, I would say, in my opinion, very heavily involved in the drafting of that. And for those of you who know, the biggest license you can have in state of New Hampshire for producers is the 402J. That's our full license that you can sell homeowners insurance, any type of insurance if you have that line. So that's our big producer license. Then under that, we have these limited licenses for what I think really lesser products. And this is self-storage. And then it allows self-storage facilities to, in essence, be able to sell the product with an insurer sitting above them. Now, in this one, we were a little more concerned because it is personal property. You can have quite a bit of personal property in your storage facility. So we put some things in place that aren't really in the other limited lines. Like there has to be training, and we have to approve the training. We limited it to the $10,000, so we didn't want to have large value policies that you weren't going to a 402J producer. And we did look at, there was mentioned all 40 states. We looked at pretty much all 40 states to try to pick out the best pieces of each state for consumer protection. So we're going to look at all the forms. It's going to be form approval, it's a training approval. And I would say of the lines, this is probably the most regulated of the limited lines. So that the commissioner also personally reviewed this one, and he's very comfortable that it is sufficiently consumer protective that we can let it go forward. So I'm happy to take any questions about it.
Okay.
Okay. And then maybe I'll move up to travel since it's related. Now, travel insurance, again, is a limited line. The travel insurance law 402L is already in place. And it's a much abbreviated version. Now in New Hampshire, it's a little unusual because we have a abbreviated limited lines license for travel insurance. And then under that, we have a very extensive rule. So when we were brought the NEIC model, what several of our attorneys did was they basically made sure, because we think our rule is working well, that the NEIC model we put in place was consistent with the rule. So in essence, you have the expanded protections as to defining the exact rules, all the parties involved, the travel agency, the education that's required, what's allowed to be done, what's not allowed to be done, what disclosures need to be put in place. So a lot of that's new, and it's more, let's call it consumer friendly. And then also underneath that, we have our very extensive rule on how the insurance is supposed to work. So again, based upon our input, we're very comfortable that this is at the right level of consumer protection for this name peril type of policy. And as always, if we get some complaints and something's not working out correctly, then we'll come back and tweak it. But right now, a lot of work was put into making sure the rule and the statute will work well together. And I would say it's much more protective for consumers than the old, much more abbreviated rule. Any questions?
Question? Okay.
And the last one is, again, an NEIC model. It's the Domestic Insurance Company Investment Law. This is, again, so that this is what applies to our domestics, the New Hampshire based insurance companies. And it allows them, as was mentioned, what we did basically is take the old law, which is very abbreviated as derivative transactions, and remove that. And our Director of Financial Regulation, Doug Bartlett, worked very extensively on taking the NEIC model and putting that in place, which is a much more detailed model on what you're allowed and not allowed to do as to investments. And one of the big things it does, again, is to allow replication transactions, which, for us more lay people, that just allows the insurance company to replicate something in a synthetic way that they're already allowed to do. So it's not something that they weren't allowed to do. It's something that basically they've always done and they're just replicating it. And again, from our position, it's the NEIC model, so that's the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, and that's in all 50 states. And this makes it a level playing field. So Liberty Mutual asked for this, so we'd want to make sure that in New Hampshire, Liberty Mutual, with our oversight and regulation to make sure for solvency, is able to do and be competitive with insurance companies in other states. So that's all that the goal of that particular section was to accomplish.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr.
I would
Fox.
also say that Doug Bartlett, Representative Bartlett, is also here if there's any really details you'd like to know about replication transactions. Because
Okay.
Just what about
So echoing.
Anyway, it's okay. I can't talk. I don't know where the echo is coming from.
Okay, I think the echo was me. I just muted myself, but now so it's okay now. So you're on.
Would you believe I'm much more comfortable after hearing from you, Mr. Fox? We should have put you on first.
Okay. All right. So only other person I have signed up to speak is Michael Byrne. And good morning, Mr. Byrne.
Morning. Thank you, everybody, for your time, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Michael Byrne. I represent the United States Travel Insurance Association, otherwise known as USTIA. USTIA's members include insurance carriers, third-party administrators, insurance agencies, and related businesses involved in the development, administration, and marketing of travel insurance and travel assistance products. We very much appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today. USTIA is very supportive of Senate Bill 124, particularly Section 1 of the bill, which is important, as mentioned by Senator Kavanaugh and Mr. Fox, important for travel consumers, regulators, and the industry. And we thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee for taking up the legislation today. And obviously thank Senator Kavanaugh for his support, and Mr. Fox for his work and the department's efforts to incorporate the NAIC and NCOIL model into New Hampshire law. We don't need to restate what the Senator, Mr. Fox, presented, which we very much echo and support, and just want to say that we urge the committee to pass the bill. And thank you again for your time, and happy to answer any questions about the legislation.
Representative Bartlett, did you have a question, or is your hand still up? Okay.
I do. Thank you very much. I'm not trying to be facetious with this question, but I'm wondering if you have had any travel insurance companies go out of business in the past year.
Not that I'm aware of. Certainly not insurance companies that I'm aware of.
Thanks very much. I'm sure there's plenty of claims.
Well, all I can say is for me to get into the British Virgin Islands, I had to buy travel insurance, which I've never bought before. And they did give a list of companies that are available. And there was 6 different companies. And I think I went with Assurian because I knew the name. but so it's obviously a very lively market in that business. So, all right. Having no more questions and no more hands, I think we're all set. We can close the public hearing on Senate Bill 124. We had 16 in support, no opposition, and 2 neutral, which I believe are insurance department people. And with that, we'll end that public hearing. And now we'll go to the last but not least, our favorite subject, beer. And we'll have, so the prime sponsor is Senator Gannon. I know he was here. Here he goes. I'm going to promote him up here. And good morning, Senator Gannon. I'm sorry about the 12-minute delay. Probably he was in Vaporland and didn't hear me.
There we go.
There
Can you
he
hear
is.
me now?
All right, perfect.
Great. I'm sorry. I'm in the middle of commerce too. And so I've been listening in and out. And it's hard to follow my favorite Senator Lou DeSalesandro because he is the chairman. But anyways, so I talked with your chairman Hunt yesterday, and I felt much like my kids when they come home from junior high or high school with their paper. And that's me. And they thought they knew everything on a subject. And I learned humbly that it's some things aren't in your wheelhouse, and what seems very easy isn't always as easy as it seems. So I appreciate Senator Hunt's patience with me.
Don't demote me, Representative Hunt.
I'm sorry, Representative Hunt. So anyways, I'll tell you why I started the bill, where we're at with it. So I had no real knowledge outside of drinking and enjoying beer till December of this last year. So the microbrewers, everyone came to me and they said, here's an industry that generates $506 million. It helps our tourist industry. I'm watching people go from vineyard to vineyard throughout the state. And I'm like, wow, this is great. We can have the same thing going, tourists coming up. I have one a mile from me. It's called, what is it called? Zerbino Vineyards. And they are packed 7 days a week in the summer. And I'm like, wouldn't this be a good thing for every town that has a small nano brewery, a microbrewery? And again, providing 4,700 jobs. The average pay is $42,000. We're all about the New Hampshire advantage. Seemed like a total no-brainer to me. But then you get into the weeds, as Senator Hunt knows, and there's a long history with the bill. Not just the whole industry has much, much more detail than I know. But I'll give you my summary of it, and we'll go from there. So I introduced the bill after I said, geez, let's spread more jobs in New Hampshire. Sounds like a great idea. So the bill is sought to simplify the statutes governing the craft beer industry to enable more competitive with the surrounding states, bring more businesses in, and help our local breweries. The Senate committee, we testified in our committee first, and the original bill would have had an indeterminate effect on the Liquor Commission's 3-tier system, which consists of manufacturers, wholesalers, and retailers. So we amended the bill. I think I talked to probably all 92 microbrewers, nano brewers. And so we amended it. We talked to the Liquor Commission, the wholesalers, the craft brewers, And then what we came out with then was we tried not to fundamentally alter the 3-tier system. Instead, we just tried to increase the amount of beverages allowed to be sold at a manufacturer's facility, permit the nano brewers and the brew pubs to contract brew, and allow for interstate shipment of specialty beers, and permit beverage manufacturers and licensees to have a retail outlet, just one, besides where they make their main manufacturing, and to sample produce, much like LaBelle Brewery is doing nearby me in Hampstead. They're having a satellite winery, and they don't have to make the product there. They can just have like a sampling room to spread their product. So the idea was if you were brewing up in some weird far uptown, I don't want to insult anyone and say their town's far, and we'll just say like in Berlin or somewhere, and you could have a satellite location in Portsmouth. You could spread your label, you get people to come try a little bit of your beer, and hopefully generate a buzz and get your product sold. And again, helping New Hampshire business is what we're all about. I have since talked to Chairman Hunt and found out there's a lot more to it than I probably know or will ever understand. So I'm going to defer to him and the committee to explain where I may be off. And I think there are going to be people testifying now after me on both sides, from manufacturers, distributors, and they understand that there's a 20-year history on this going back and forth. And so I would ask that you ask them the questions. I will listen attentively and try to bring myself up from a basic understanding to a higher understanding, listening to everyone's testimony. And I believe Chairman Hunt may later have an amendment which he thinks covers a lot of these issues. And I would ask that you I can't try to answer questions, but I think your time would be better spent dealing with the people who really understand the ins and outs and the weeds. And that's it, Chairman. Thank you. Did the room empty?
No, yeah, no.
Oh, no, they just showed an empty room. And that's usually when I try to tell a joke. There's no one left at the end.
You're right. You're on the committee room. Yeah. No, my space bar didn't work that time to
okay.
To mute. Okay. So thank you very much, Senator.
Okay. Thank you very much. You have a great day. Thank you, Chairman.
And do good work over there in Commerce.
I'm going to head back over there now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So I will next call up is Aiden Moore. Yeah, I pulled you up already. Aiden, I know you have an appointment that you have to attend to, so I thought we would get you to tell us what you think of this legislation.
Good morning, Chairman Hunt and committee members. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. My name is Aiden Moore. I am the legal coordinator for the State Liquor Commission. And I just thought we would like to at least offer you some thoughts on Senate Bill 125, working off Amendment 0745S. Can I confirm that with you, Chairman?
Sure, why not? I don't know. Do I have that? I have 0745S. Yes, that's what it says on the top. Yes.
Thank you.
As amended by the Senate.
Yes, thank you, sir. Just to cover some of the things that are in this, and the commission has been working with some members of the industry to help fashion some of these changes, as was mentioned by Senator Gannon. And for those who would like to follow along, I can try to briefly address the 7 parts of this bill. Section 1 removes some of the limitations that has been put in place for the purposes of limiting the quantities that a consumer can buy at a beverage manufacturer's facility. We thought that was an easy change that would bring about some opportunities for consumers. Sections 2, 3, and 4 are parts of this bill which essentially are dealing with contract brewing that will allow nanobrewers and brew pubs to engage in contract brewing. Now, sections 2, 3, and 4 have already been amended, and the language that you see in this bill is the exact language that appears in the amendment to Senate Bill 17 brought by Senator Sherman. So it appears in two places. You'll see it here in this bill, and it also appears as an amendment in Senate Bill 17, which I believe the committee has already taken up. Your committee has already taken up, Representative Hunt, for its first introduction. So you may be seeing that again. Section 5 is a section that deals with the intra-state shipment of alcohol. As you know, RSA 17827 is a bill that was passed long ago to allow for businesses who are licensed out of the state of New Hampshire to obtain permits to ship products into the state of New Hampshire. And Section 5 would allow and create the language as well as the labeling and reporting requirements for businesses who are licensed within the state to ship to consumers located within New Hampshire. And so that process, and again, it's what is important, I think, for the committee to know is that the permits that would be part of this are not subject to fees. We're not going to ask the legislature to impose any additional fees to obtain the right to ship within the state of New Hampshire by our New Hampshire licensees. Section 6 deals with what I guess has commonly been referred to as satellite locations. I think it is important to note that on line 18 on page 4 of the bill, you'll see the word at the end of the sentence, retail outlets. This certainly would appear to be authorizing, if this were to become law, a beverage manufacturer to obtain more than one retail outlet. And we felt that that certainly something to bring to your attention. And Section 7 creates a new definition of a beverage manufacturer retail outlet. And again, we've kind of framed this in the phrase of a satellite location, which would allow a beverage manufacturer, and that the terms that are contained within this definition are conditions precedent to getting the satellite location. And it should be brought to your attention that the way this statute is constructed, that a beverage manufacturer who would be seeking a satellite location would need to manufacture product at the site of that retail location in order to be eligible. So, Mr. Chairman, that's our assessment of Senate Bill 125 as amended in the Senate. And I'd be happy to take any questions from committee members if they have any. I think you're muted, sir.
Representative Weston, you have a question? Nope.
Thank you, Chairman Hunt, and thank you, Mr. Moore, for taking my question. As you mentioned, we are pretty familiar with the main part of this because of SB 17. And there are a couple of figures in there that have confused me all along, which refer to the maximum amount that can be produced by a nano brewer and a brew pub. And I'm wondering why those two amounts are not the same. A nano brewer is limited to 2,000 barrels, but a brew pub can do 25.
Thank you for
yeah, 2,500. And why are they different?
Thank you for your question, Representative. I can tell you the brew pub preceded the nano brewers as far as its capacity. It was rather a new creation that kind of came a number of years ago with the idea that a restaurant that is interested in brewing its own beer for its customers would have the ability to do so. So I'm going to guess well in excess of probably 20, 25 years ago, the capacity of 2,500 was placed in that statute. I think for the nanos, I was not present working with the commission at that time, but I think the idea is that the 2,000 is a reasonable level for what would probably be referred to as an incubator business, a business that's looking to start up, and that if they were to exceed that, they would then move on to the next classification of license, which would be a beverage manufacturer's license. So I can't speak to the historical reason why those numbers are there, but that would, I believe, appear to me to be why they exist the way they do, Representative.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Representative, let's see, there is an order here. Okay, Representative Bartlett is next.
Thank you very much. Mr. Moore, you know that we're dealing with these omnibus bills, and Senate Bill 17 has two parts of it. And would you be able to clarify for us that Senate Bill 125 includes everything that's in 17 on the second part?
Yes, that was, I believe, the intent when this came across, is that when Senate Bill 17 was amended by Senator Sherman to add this language dealing with, I think he approached Senator Birdsell to amend the bill, which he consented to, and it was amended. We worked with the senator and the industry to make sure that that language was tight, and it was reintroduced into Senate Bill 125 as the industry sought to again have that type of privilege included in this legislation. So we've duplicated it, but I can confirm that to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative.
Representative Van Houten.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Moore. I'm going to ask the question that I've asked a couple of times as we've heard liquor bills. The three-tier system, in my opinion, seems to be, perhaps the word is too strong, but unraveling in some ways. Are we better off to just maybe establish a commission or something of that sort to look at the skeleton of the three-tier system to be sure that we are not destroying it by bits and pieces? And I do respect your need to not be partisan here, to have some neutrality, but are we in general eroding the system in some ways?
Thank you for your questions, Representative. I think that each year, and for those of you who have been members of the General Court for a number of years, you've seen bills come each year, and it oftentimes is not clear what the impact of that legislation will be immediately. One might think it's clear, but it does change the dynamic. And I think not that every system needs to be static and never change. And certainly over the course of my time working for the state of New Hampshire, I've seen dramatic change in this area. But I also think, and I think probably most everyone who has an interest in this area would agree, that there needs to be balance, and that the process needs to be complex, and there are a lot of interlocking pieces. And when you are at the cusp of potentially making some significant change, it is, I believe, critical to look at the long-term effects and ask, how is this change going to affect other parts of the system? So to the extent that you've described, Representative, the need to kind of examine things in a very global sense, I think that makes a great sense.
Okay, all set. Representative McAleer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Moore, I thought I heard something that was a little bit contradictory. First off, I think I heard that a brewery could have one satellite. You said something about more than one?
Well, thank you for your question, Representative. I believe, and again, this may be a Scribner's error, but the way the language is written on page 4, line 18, it could be interpreted that the word outlets is plural, and that the intent may to have one satellite location, but the way the law is written, it could be very reasonably interpreted to be more than one.
So it needs to be, I think he's pointing out that it needs to be amended to have that fixed.
Okay, and a follow-up. I thought you also said that the satellite facility would have to brew as well. And I originally heard that the satellite facility would not have to have a brewing situation. Can you clarify that?
Well, thank you for your follow-up question, Representative. I'm just looking at the language that is in the amendment 745. I don't know what future amendments, if any, might bring in the way of changing that, but the way the bill that is before your committee now reads, it does require a satellite location or a beverage manufacturer retail outlet to produce product on site to be eligible to hold the license.
So again, this is another item that needs to be amended and fixed to clarify this. All right, Representative Abel. No, you're still muted, Rich.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moore. My question involves the ability of the Liquor Commission to keep track of what's brewed and what's sold, so that revenue that's due to the state is adequately accounted for and collected. Is there any problem with that at all in this?
Thank you for your question, Representative. Certainly the commission takes its responsibilities to audit and maintain proper reporting as part of its duties to ensure the revenue owed the state is collected. It is I will say, a challenge. We try to make sure that we're keeping up with that as the laws change, and the reporting of the licensees who are required to file taxes is maintained and current. So when we see some of these changes, we always try to look at that, and that's always part of our fiscal worksheets that we provide if we see anything that we feel is going to have a fiscal impact on this. But I don't see anything in this representative that I would say would necessitate or cause us to have any significant budgetary challenges. And again, that may change if the bill is amended further. But at this point in time, I think we seem to be prepared to handle it, sir.
Great. Representative Immonen has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for taking my question. Is it true that these satellite facilities would have to be for a single brewer or vineyard, that they cannot combine resources and create a satellite retail space that sold multiple producers' products? Is that correct?
Thank you for your question, Representative. And I would say your question is correct, that the way the bill is drafted, a beverage manufacturer would be able to have a satellite location and only sell their products. They could not sell anybody else's products.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no more questions, then I guess we'll move on. So I'll call up Kirsten Neves, and who is in support of the bill, and she's from Tuckerman Brewing.
Hi, committee members. Thank you for taking the time to hear me. I'm Kirsten Neves. I'm co-founder of Tuckerman Brewing Company, and I'm also vice president of the New Hampshire Brewers Association, and I support SB 125. We opened Tuckerman Brewing Company in 1998, and in 23 years, we've seen significant change in the craft brewing industry in New Hampshire. When we opened, people would mainly come to the brewery to take tours and maybe have a quick sample. And if we were lucky, we could convince them to buy a 6-pack on their way out, but hardly anybody took us up on it. And over the last 2 decades, we've watched as brewery tasting rooms have become increasingly popular with locals and tourists, and tasting rooms have become an integral part of the communities that they're located in. Our customers are from all walks of life, locations, and age groups, and our tasting room serves as a community meeting place for everyone. Unfortunately, over the years, the licensing and regulations pertaining to New Hampshire breweries has not kept pace with the brewing industry. Other states around us have had far fewer restrictions and regulations on breweries, and they're able to offer their customers a more fluid and comfortable tasting room experience. If New Hampshire breweries want to keep up the pace of the ever-evolving brewing industry, we need to be able to work without the burdens of overregulation. SB 125 takes steps towards allowing New Hampshire breweries to compete with breweries in neighboring New England states. SB 125 would help our particular business by eliminating the 1 case per person per day limit on what we can sell to customers for offsite consumption. That's extremely confusing to try to explain to customers, especially from tourists from out of state. It would also allow us to have a satellite location in a more heavily trafficked area of our town. Our brewery is located in an industrial park, and our customers have to really seek us out to find us. Also, if we could open a satellite location, we could open in a different part of the state that doesn't have the seasonal fluctuations that we do in the North Country. Also important of a satellite location, it would allow us to introduce varieties of our products that can't be sold in stores. There's tremendous competition for shelf space in retail and chain stores. And also a lot of the beers that we brew have special instructions for refrigeration and handling that only a brewer could explain to a customer or would possibly want to explain to a customer. We have 13 beers on draft right now in our tasting room, and only 6 of those are distributed through our distributors throughout the state, and that's because of those reasons. And also on behalf of my role as the Vice President of the NHBA, SB 125 would help our members in a number of ways. It would allow contract brewing to be performed by a beverage manufacturer for any brewery license type. Currently, a beverage manufacturer can only contract brew for another beverage manufacturer. SB 125 would also allow New Hampshire breweries to direct ship to customers in New Hampshire. Currently, only out-of-state breweries are allowed to direct ship to New Hampshire, which is a great disadvantage to our breweries. SB 125 would allow craft breweries of any size to have satellite locations, which would bring parity with New Hampshire wineries who are allowed to have satellite locations regardless of their size. Also, I would like to read a statement from Errol Moe, who is co-founder of Stoneface Brewing and treasurer of the New Hampshire Brewers Association. And Errol says that he has surmised that the state will realize incremental tax revenue of $100,000 to $150,000 if just 5 to 10% of beverage manufacturers chose to open a satellite location. That option creates growth opportunities for our small businesses and translates into new jobs across geographic regions. But thank you very much for hearing me out, and please let me know if you have any questions.
We do have a question. Representative Burrows.
Yes, Kirsten, thanks for taking my question. I'm just confused because I'm reading some of the verbiage on page 4 of the bill, and I've been to Tuckerman's in Conway. You do a lot of great things for charities, et cetera. Do you have a limit on the amount of servings you can have in that facility in Conway? I don't think you serve food.
I'm sorry, the SB 125 doesn't really pertain to the pint limits. It pertains to off-premise sales. So what SB 125 tries to fix is that if somebody comes to the brewery and wants to buy some beer to go, they can only buy 1 case or 1 keg per person per day.
Okay, so this wouldn't limit how much you serve in the Conway facility?
No, it wouldn't address the pint limits at all.
Okay.
There's a separate statute that relates to that. That's already.
Because I see people sitting there a long time. That would have surprised me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the committee? Thank you very much. All right, now from the other side, Mike Sommers from Restaurant and Hospitality.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. For the record, my name is Mike Sommers. I'm the president and CEO of the New Hampshire Lodging and Restaurant Association. And for the most part, this bill, we don't really have a concern with. I think the one thing that has been touched on a couple of times in testimony are the satellite locations. And as I understood in the initial days of this bill, the intent was to have 1 satellite location per brewery, which, we could probably live with that. But again, through the amendment process, we ended up with this version, which I think I'm in agreement with former Chief Moore that the way it's written right now, ultimately a brewery could have, 10, 15 or more locations. which would create a concern for the industry, for us, for the restaurant industry, because now we've essentially going to have beer bars with no food requirements competing potentially next door to our restaurants that have all the food requirements and all the other overhead that is required to be carried based on our licensing structure. So that really is our concern. And again, it sounds like there's potentially some discussion within the committee that this may be amended, in which case we would probably withdraw our concerns. But I just wanted to flag that, and certainly I'm happy to try to answer any questions if anyone has any.
We will absolutely have an amendment for this bill, and yes, it will address this issue.
I'm surprised, sir.
Representative Abramson has a question.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for taking my question. Do you recall what page and line the provision says that they're allowed to have unlimited number of satellite facilities?
Well, it doesn't specifically say unlimited, but there's no restriction on it either. It doesn't say anywhere that there is a limit to it. So I think by extension, and I'm no attorney, so I would certainly defer to an attorney, but my understanding would be that there would be no restriction on it.
It's the word, it's a plural word. It says outlets, and that to having a plural S implies more than one.
Have a follow-up?
Further question may inquire.
And what do you think would be a reasonable limit for this particular bill?
Well, again, I think our understanding when when this bill first came forward, that the intent was to have one per brewery, which, okay, we could live with that. So if you're a brewery in, say, Lincoln, New Hampshire, maybe you have a location in Portsmouth or whatever, the example used earlier. But ultimately, the way it's currently drafted, you could have one in Portsmouth, one in Manchester, one in Nashville, one in Concord. Essentially, and this would apply for every single brewery. So now we could have a situation where we could have a beer bar on every corner competing with, the legitimate full-fledged, full-service restaurants.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you, sir.
I can assure you your concerns will be addressed. Okay, and let's see who else. Let's see, another neutral, Scott Shire. All right, Scott, I'm going to pull you up here.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, good morning.
Hey, good
Scott.
morning, Chairman Hunt and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Scott Shire, and I'm the director of the New Hampshire Beer Distributors Association. And we're neutral on this right now. As presented, we're generally supportive of the bill. Anything that advances the goals of our New Hampshire brewer partners and the industry in general, especially sort of mirroring that on-premise, on-brewery experience that people can have in neighboring states of Maine or Vermont or Massachusetts, is generally good. Like Mike Summers and some of the others, we do have some concerns with the satellite location or locations. And also the production requirement. But as it stands right now, we're supportive of the bill and eager to work with the committee on any amendments that are coming forward. So I'd open up to questions too, and thanks for your attention.
Representative Abramson has a question.
Yeah, thank you very much for taking my question. Basically the same question. Did you need just one satellite location, or do you have some businesses that would need, some breweries that would need, more than that? Would they need two, for example, just seasonal or what have you?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Generally speaking, I think one is probably a reasonable amount. Given the size of our geography or size of our state, that probably would suffice, and I think that's a reasonable amount.
So obviously one was what we did with the wine producer. And the argument somewhat is that where you're manufacturing, zoning is such that you might not really lend itself to being a retail type location where people come in and taste something. And so the idea of one is that you could divide your business in the sense that you would have a manufacturing facility that's in a manufactured zoning or thing that's warehouse type environment, but that if you wanted to have your actual retail arrangement to be in a place that is more conducive for consumers to walk in, that made sense for one. Fine. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And let's see. Dennis Molnar. And is Dennis on? Are you Dennis? Oh, there you are. Okay. All right. Thank you for and still good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for your time this morning. My name's Dennis Molnar, and I'm the co-owner with my wife of Concord Craft Brewing Company. On a normal year and normal session, we're just a few blocks away from where you folks regularly meet. I just think that part of my testimony really relates to kind of the adventures we've had over the last year or so with COVID. I'll say I am in support of the bill and the various provisions, including one satellite for all breweries of any size. And I think our experiences over COVID really showed that having the ability to optimize and react to these kinds of challenges really was very important for our business. Right before COVID hit, we were in discussions with the Liquor Commission. It looks like at least a year ago that we were the largest producing nano brewery in the state. We produced about 1,800 barrels in 2019 and even last year. And so we've been in discussions with the state to move to a beverage manufacturer. And so a bill that better aligns some of the different rules and regulations for moving from, I think as it was said, an innovator or brewery to one that's a larger business would be very helpful to us. But when COVID did hit, we were in we have 2 distribution partners in the state, so we certainly use and take advantage of the 3-tier system. And when COVID hit, we were distributing to about 300 different retail outlets and about 200 different restaurants and bars, various of our products. And the day after COVID hit, the distribution went down to about 0. And for about 2 months, in addition to taking back kegs of draft beer from restaurants and bars throughout the state, we did expand our ability to sell from our tasting room in downtown Concord and opened up delivery. And for several months, we sold more from our tasting room than we did the 500 outlets that we had previously sold our products through. And the ability to ship within the state, the ability to sell more than one case, and the ability to have a second satellite location that doesn't require the hundreds of thousands of investment in order to make quality production would really be helpful for businesses like ours that are trying to move from being a small family business to a business that's a little bit more sustainable throughout the state. We employ 4 full-time employees and 12 part-time employees. And if things go well this year, we'll produce about 500,000 pints of beer. And just these changes in this particular bill would really help other companies who are trying to make the transition from a little local brewery to a statewide business, including through the 3-tier system and of distribution. I think it would really help other folks to do exactly what we've done. So big supporter of the bill and hope you'll take that into consideration.
Great. Thank you very much for your testimony. Is there any questions from committee members? Okay, seeing none. And last but not least, Kate Fry, who is in opposition to the bill.
Good morning, members of the committee. Ignore the ringing phone in the background. Of course, that happens as soon as I get online. I just wanted to, for the record, my name is Kate Fry from New Futures. And, you know, we have found this bill very confusing from the beginning. We don't have any issues necessarily with you know, making nano breweries more competitive, certainly getting rid of the requirement of what can be sold. But I have to go back to what Representative Van Houten said, is that we are slowly dismantling the three-tier system with every little move like this. And it is concerning. I'm happy to hear that there'll be $100 to $150 million in additional revenue with each satellite location, but maybe we should take a look at that as well. And none of this funding proportionally goes to treatment, recovery, prevention of substance use disorders. So it's great we're increasing revenues, but where is that going as far as helping the people who are suffering from substance use disorder? I agree as well that with Mike Somers and Aiden Moore as far as the concern about the retail outlets. And I do have a big concern about expanding the intrastate delivery for, but it sounds like basically all vendors, and would want to have more information about that. So, you know, in this time where we're on a committee hearing and we're here, there's going to be immediately here, there's going to be an amendment, and yet people really don't have access to getting that amendment right away. I would strongly suggest the committee retain the bill. I think there's some good pieces in here, but I just feel like this has been a moving target, this particular bill, from the beginning. First, it was going to get rid of the food. It had something to do with the food requirement. Then it didn't. And so it's just been really difficult to follow. I appreciate the committee's time. And again, I would encourage committee looking at retaining this bill. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for your testimony. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none. So just when I got through my list, I didn't see there are 2 hands popped up. So and now we have 3 hands pop up. No, maybe not. Okay. So I will call on Andy Day of Daydreaming Brewing. And still, good morning.
I mean, here we go. Sorry about that. Good morning, Chairman Hunt and committee members. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Andy Day. I own Daydreaming Brewing Company, Meadow Vineyards, Dwari Distilling, and a small restaurant, Cask and Vine, located in downtown Derry. I am in strong support of SB 125. In this past week, my partner and I have secured just under $100,000 in investments to grow all 3 of these businesses simultaneously. And this is through personal loans with citizens in the Derry community. A significant part of our business plan moving forward was focused on the idea that having a satellite tasting room. My current tasting room is 14 by 10 feet. So certainly not a lot of guests can fit here. The proposed property that we have in mind is 3 times that with 3 acres of land. So this obviously would allow us to provide a much richer experience to our guests, as well as potentially grow the business 10 times over. Given that the laws allow us as a winery to have a satellite tasting room, it seems only fair that breweries have the same. My brewery is currently a 1-barrel brew house, which is 30 gallons at a time, more or less. It's nano in size. This expansion and growth will allow us to triple production. And with the addition of a satellite tasting room, we'd be able to grow in a way that we otherwise couldn't. So I would very much like to encourage and in support of SB 125. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much. Drew Klein. I believe I read an editorial by you recently. You there, Drew?
Yeah, I had to unmute. Sorry for that. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify. I am Drew Klein. I'm president of the Josiah Bartlett Center for Public Policy. And I just wanted to give you our take on the effect of 125 as we see it. Excuse me, in our view, the laws that regulate New Hampshire craft breweries ought to facilitate innovation, creativity, experimentation, and economic growth. If they're too rigid to do that, then the laws inevitably will make it harder for entrepreneurs to scale up their small businesses or possibly even keep them alive. Looking at SB 125, we believe that it does make some changes that will ease the regulatory burden on these local businesses in ways that will make it easier for them to thrive expand, and make an even greater contribution to the state's economy. We see four major changes in the law, and I'll just real quickly run through them. One, SB 125 removes an entirely unnecessary and economically dubious prohibition on selling more than a single keg or 12-pack to a member of the general public. That existing prohibition simply forces people to buy beer for social gatherings. Say you're going to have a wedding or a backyard lawn party or something in the summer. It forces you to go to grocers or other retailers rather than to craft brewers to do that. It doesn't protect the public at all. It just shifts sales to other providers, typically to the out-of-state beer producers that dominate supermarket shelves. Number two, SB 125 removes an unnecessary prohibition on contract brewing that again does nothing to protect the public, but which restricts nanobrewers and brew pubs' ability to provide additional supply to meet growing demand or to reach markets elsewhere in the state. The bill removes an unnecessary prohibition on intrastate shipping of alcoholic beverages directly to consumers. All that existing prohibition does is force consumers to order from other sources, whether supermarkets or out-of-state suppliers, by making it illegal for them to order the same types of beverages directly from in-state producers. This prohibition, again, gives large out-of-state breweries and wineries a competitive advantage over New Hampshire businesses. Removing it would let New Hampshire businesses offer a delivery service that consumers want, and that's become increasingly important as large segments of the population and economy have made permanent shifts to remote work. So with fewer people commuting to an office, demand for delivery has increased, and it's likely to remain strong permanently. It's unclear why the law should let consumers order beer and wine from supermarkets or from out-of-state suppliers, but prohibit them from ordering beer and wine directly from New Hampshire businesses. And last, SB 125 removes a prohibition on breweries creating a retail location separate from the brewing facility itself. This prohibition, again, puts New Hampshire breweries at a competitive disadvantage. There's no harm to the public in letting a brewery establish a satellite retail location separate from the brewing facility. Because the state's population is so heavily skewed to the south, we look at this and believe that ending this prohibition would be of particular help to the many brewers that are located in the Merrimack Valley and above. So grocers, as you probably everybody on this committee knows, have very limited shelf space. It's very challenging for small breweries to convince supermarkets to carry their products. As an example, one of my favorite breweries is Schilling up in the North Country, and they're not carried at any of my local supermarkets. But they're an hour and 45 minutes away from my house. So if they were able to have a satellite location in the southern part of the state, it'd be much easier for me to go get their products. And again, it's no threat or harm to the public. I'm not sure why the provision there, as I read it, does not include nanobreweries or brew pubs. I'd just like to flag that to the committee. The ability to open a separate retail location could be even more important to these smaller brewers. It's easier than ever now for a small brewer to find affordable retail space in places like Manchester, Nashua, and the Seacoast. Being prohibited from opening such a space is an artificial constraint that really only hurts small businesses that are trying to grow. With commercial real estate now prices being really low, it's totally reasonable to believe that a nano brewery or a brew pub could easily find an affordable retail space in a separate part of the state that would allow them to reach a new market. It's not clear why the law wouldn't include them as well. In sum, we believe that SB 25 would have the effect of removing unneeded barriers to small business growth, reducing some of the advantages that large out-of-state brewers have over New Hampshire craft brewers right now, and increasing competition among brewers, which would be good for them and good for consumers. And one last point, and I think this is important for members of the committee to think about, though craft brewing has exploded in the past few decades, beer consumption in the US has actually declined slightly in the last decade. In other words, the number of beer consumers is not really growing. It's actually slightly shrinking. So the changes included in SB 125 would not increase alcohol consumption. They instead would free New Hampshire brewers to compete on a more level playing field for the limited number of beer consumers that do exist. And one last point on the retail locations. It's just, again, it's not clear to me what the protection to the public would be. by limiting the retail locations to one per brewer, or by prohibiting brewers from teaming up and selling their wares together at a particular retail location. The law really should be about facilitating competition and helping consumers, and not protecting one particular industry by disadvantaging another. And happy to take questions if anybody has them.
Evidently, we do have questions. Representative Belo has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for taking my question. Mr. Klein, are you representing yourself today?
No, as I said at the beginning, I'm here for the Josiah Bartlett Center for Public Policy.
Okay, thank you.
And Representative Burrows has a question.
Yes, thank you for taking my question, Mr. Klein, which is these not being familiar with how the industry works. These craft brewers, would you say that these retail locations are a prime way for these small businesses to get word out about their product, given the difficulty of getting them into supermarkets and those types of retail outlets?
Yeah, I think potentially that is true. So one way to think about this is that, so if you have a supermarket, if you're Market Basket or Hannaford or Shaw's, or even one of the smaller grocers, you obviously have limited shelf space, and you want to maximize the product going off the shelves, right? So you want to have something that consumers already know. That's why you sell Budweiser and the big name brands, right? So if you're using some of that shelf space for a totally unknown nano brewery, you have to do a lot of your own promotion. So it doesn't make sense for you as the grocer to dedicate a lot of shelf space to small breweries that customers don't already know. And that's one of the reasons why it's so hard for a small brewery to get that shelf space. So you've noticed, I'm sure you guys have, the number of beer stores that have opened up in New Hampshire over the last decade. Those also have very limited shelf space. So I think that's one of the reasons why you would want to allow these small breweries to open a satellite location. Again, as I mentioned, commercial real estate rents have dropped dramatically. So it's certainly not unreasonable to think that a nano brewery could open a retail location in the southern part of the state if they're located out west, or vice versa. If you're located in the southern part of the state, a lot of good breweries in the southern part of the state that might want to open a retail outlet in Hanover, for example, or Littleton, and compete with the breweries up there. I think the law should facilitate that kind of competition and not put artificial restraints in front of it, because when you do that, one of the things that you accomplish is to just make it harder for these small businesses to scale up, to hire more people, and to grow their business. And I don't think the law should be making it harder for them to do that. It should be making it easier for them to do that.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Is there anyone else would like to speak on this issue? Oh, I do have another hand. No, went up and then not. Someone might want to speak. Not. Okay, the Grocers Association. All right. And all I know is that you're a grocer association. Is this John Dumas or somebody else here with the grocers? Oh, I saw you for a second. Oh, there you are. All right, great.
Okay.
Hey, John. Hey, John. How are you?
Great, and yourself?
Long time.
It has been. It has been busy times with the COVID situation. So I apologize for not being in to see you all in person. I miss that friendship we have every year of meeting with the legislators. However, I am here today to testify on this bill. And for the record, my name is John Dumas. I'm the president and CEO of the New Hampshire Grocers Association. The association is opposed to Senate Bill 125 relative to the beverage manufacturer licenses as currently written. The NHGA represents over 900 members in the state of New Hampshire, from the small independent mom and pop establishments to convenience stores to the large chain operated supermarkets. And most of those have off-premise licensees. Our membership also includes numerous categories of suppliers and several craft beer and wine manufacturers who's close to 1,000 full and part-time employees. We want to highlight our concerns with the Senate amendment, which we believe creates several unintended consequences. And this is somewhat close to what we've heard recently by Mr. Moore and others from the industry. First, in Section 6, page 4, line 18, it would allow beverage manufacturers to create retail outlets and on-premise sales locations separate from manufacturing facilities. As a concept, a New Hampshire tasting location, this would be similar to wineries, which are allowed one retail outlet license. This language pluralizes outlets and does not specify each license would be only allowed one retail outlet. At minimum, we believe this section should mirror what is in place in New Hampshire wineries. It shouldn't be any more lenient than what they have. We are also concerned with Section 5 of the bill, which adds, quote, importer, wholesaler, or retailer to list of organizations that can direct ship alcohol to consumers as a direct conflict with the three-tier system. And that was brought up earlier, you know, should we be protecting the three-tier system? We are very adamant that we need to protect that for the safety of the state, for the consumers and the retailers. This could have been an unintended consequence. Corporations with large volume buying capacity could create a system where they could ship large volumes of alcohol at lower prices than local retailers. This would add pressure to small local businesses who are already balancing competitive pressures. We believe that a much more appropriate way to handle direct shipping would be to limit the shipping to manufacturers shipping their own product. This would allow consumers access to an increasing variety of products not available at the local retailer while maintaining the system. No one can argue the rapid increase in popularity and number of craft beer options available to consumers. As demand has increased over the last few years, current methods of distribution have continued to increase the number of products widely available throughout the state. Maintaining the current three-tier system is important to ensuring consumer safety. Beverage manufacturers and small brewing facilities have thrived under the current system, offering significant consumer choice while enjoying considerable flexibility. As the craft beer industry continues to grow in size and complexity, it will be increasingly important to maintain current checks and balances that ensures quality and safety standards across the state. We respectfully request that the bill be amended to address these concerns and look forward to working with the committee to make those changes happen. And I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
I see Keith Hammond's got his hand up, so I hope you will upload your testimony to our webpage so we all can.
Be glad to do that.
Great, appreciate it. Is there any other questions from the committee members? I don't see any. Is anybody else would like to testify on Senate Bill 125? I don't see any more hands up. And it's 12:09, so not too bad. Given that we were an hour late or 10 minutes late. So for the committee members, what I'm thinking right now is that, yes, I have been working on an amendment because I knew these issues were out there. And I have been looking at it and reviewing it. My expectation is to send out that amendment to everyone. And certainly if anybody in the public would like to have a copy of them, just send me an email and I will forward once I have it done. And we'll try to address all these, some of these issues that have come up. And I probably, just for the sake of whatever, I will probably next Tuesday will have a hearing on the amendment so that no one will ever say they didn't get a chance to weigh in on it. So so let's plan for next Tuesday. We'll have we'll have a hearing on the amendment to 125, and then in terms of starting to exec bills, we're not under a lot of pressure to exec bills at this point. In terms of, when we have the time, we have almost the whole month of May, but I wouldn't necessarily want to do that. But as I'll pick through and see bills that I think that might be easy to get started, and I will of course be talking to my minority leader and letting her know what we're doing ahead of time and what I foresee going on. And theoretically, you'll know right away if we're going to exec something, because there'd have to be if in the calendar, it would have to be stated that we're execing a bill. So there'll be no surprises there. But other than that,
we appreciate you.
yes, I don't like surprises. So other than that, is there any other questions from the committee members on what's going on going forward? Okay, seeing none. Thank you all, and enjoy the rest of the day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.